Welcome to Mavericks with Marty. I'm Marty Kotis, your host, and today I have with me two street artists, Jenna and Doug Cason. We have a chance to talk extensively about what it's like to make a living as an artist and how difficult that can be. And we talk about the role of art. How should it offend you or should it please you? What is that role of artwork out there?
You know what? I think that your artwork should offend at least somebody, in order for it to have an impact. I mean, my professor in college, he would always talk shit and he'd be like, yeah, all these conservative places and all want these fucking flower paintings. Like, why do they want, just all flowers and butterflies and fields and whatever and, landscapes. It's like just do some nudity, do something crazy, do something kind of politically offensive. It's not artwork unless it speaks for something or someone. And I feel like that's super important. And if our artwork is controlled one day for whatever reason, and we're told we can only paint this, this, and this, that will destroy our creative input, and we're going to lose everything.
I already knew the psychology, that men were visual animals and women were situational. And I started seeing these people would post pictures and they were awful, awful photographs. And when I say people, I mean women were posting these awful photographs, seeking the male gaze out. Mm-hmm. And like the flash would blow out the whole picture, or there'd be toothpaste flecks all over the mirror. And I'm like, these are fascinating. And I love painting people. Painting people is fun. And then the political stuff. Yeah. I had a file for the GOP headquarters in Washington County in Texas. They knew who I was by name, had my address and my phone number. Wow. And it's all because I was just taking political signs and just, using my vinyl cutter and changing things.
We talk about what it's like to deal with haters and trolls out there.
When you're doing things that are out there and they're independent and you're challenging some different ideas and not conforming, you're going to get some haters out there, some trolls out there.
And we talk about how people can misunderstand art sometimes.
I should point out Jenna's
all these symbols and stuff, right? They say this is a doodle grid.
They say.
But it's not just a doodle grid, okay? These are what are called sigils. It's a form of magic, and it's demonic. So under this painting,
use your magic to get that lift working a little bit more next time. Come on.
I'll try.
Lift breaking down over there. You can't use your magic and Satan symbols to get it going.
Into the occult, and I don't want to know.
We have a chance to talk about what entices artists to the graffiti world.
I saw the street art scene here and how much it was blossoming, and it just looked so exciting and interesting. And I was an oil painter and acrylic painter at the time, and I was just like, man, I can do that in oil paint. I wonder if I could do that in spray.
We talk about the importance of passing along information and how everyone starts out as a toy or newbie in street art.
To teach them things like the different kinds of caps, the difference between a high pressure and a low pressure can, the things that you don't really know and don't really learn, like even short videos that explain little things, can handling wise, and just about the different brands of paint and like my favorite brands of paint or the things that I use, how to scale a mural to a wall with a doodle grid. I already have a video of that. And actually that has a ton of views. It's not even that great of a video, but it's about the content.
And we also talk about advice for Mavericks.
What would be some advice you'd have for people? Y'all are both comfortable being independent and not conforming with what other people expect you to do, and not just being in one little limited sphere where you're not open to other ideas. What advice would you have for someone that wants to become a maverick, that wants to be more independent and develop that approach?
Know your shit. Quite honestly, like if you got something to say, you need to research the hell out of it before you open your mouth. because you're like we just said, everybody's going to attack you from every corner. I mean, that's what undergrad and graduate school taught me was, how people dogging on me 24/7 until I could defend myself, which I thought I was pretty good at before that. But it's whatever your craft is, you learn it and you live it, you master it. And then you have your good argument, and you know when to back down, you know when to say, I disagree, you know when to say, I'm sorry, or I'm out of my element. There's nothing wrong with that. Humility is a great thing. But I think deep down, the whole thing is if you don't know what you're doing and you're going to engage in something that's controversial or on the edge or maverick behavior, then you're going to get a lot of pushback that may be uncomfortable. So really, for me, it's know your shit.
I'm Jenna Rice. I am an artist, a muralist in Greensboro, North Carolina, fine art background, as you said. I'm originally from New England, went to college in Florida, moved here about 6.5 years ago. I saw the street art scene here and how much it was blossoming. And it just looked so exciting and interesting. And I was an oil painter and acrylic painter at the time. And I was just like, man, I can do that in oil paint. I wonder if I could do that in spray. And, I thought about it and I watched YouTube videos about spray painting for literally a year before I even touched a can because I was so scared to even try. And I'm so glad that I finally picked up a can and I was like, you know what, screw it. I'm going to try it. COVID actually helped with that too. I was able to get more practice and stuff during COVID and able to do a lot more random projects and stuff and practice and get better. And yeah, here I am. I'm officially 2 full years into full-time street art.
That's great.
Excellent.
Yeah.
And Doug?
I'm Doug Cason, also known as Zapeta and also known as the Reverend Wayne. And I moved here from Texas about 4 years ago. And I probably hadn't painted a mural in over 20 years back when it was just Rust-Oleum and Krylon and Kmart, brand. And coming to Greensboro, just looking around and seeing everything on the walls, I'm like, well, man, I should be doing some of this. And cold called Marty, and he's like, oh, yeah, I'll meet you. And so we met up at the brewery and started talking. He's like, well, yeah, I didn't see anything like this on the wall. Let's do it. I'm like, really? It's that easy? We're just going to go with this? And he's like, yeah, why not? And I'm like, well, I'm not arguing. Let's do this. And so I've been, doing little odd things here and there and having a great time with it.
And you did that fun pig head too.
I did the fun pig head. Yeah. Got to get that out into the main view.
So I haven't seen work like that before. Talk about that type of art because it's, is there, did you have an inspiration for that or?
Okay. So,
or let's describe it first. So the artwork.
So as the Reverend Wayne, one of the things I do is I take taxidermy heads, various animals that I find, and then I coat them with a good 100 to 150 coats of house paint, and then I sand it back down, and it creates this wonderful little kind of swirl look on it. And then you got all the stalactites from the paint drips. And it began because I lived in Houston for so many years, and that's number 4 in the art market. And then I moved to a small town of 16,000 people. And how do you sell contemporary artwork out in the country? And I wasn't. So I started co-opting what they had on their walls, which were, or just what they had as decor. So everybody paints bluebonnets on cast irons and skillets. So I started playing with that. And then everybody has doilies that their grandmother made. So I started playing with that. And then one day just somebody gave me a deer head. And I'm like, yes, that's what I want to work with. And so just took it into the garage and just started painting it for about half a year, 6 months. And it worked. And they're quite popular.
Had you ever seen anything like that before? What was the inspiration for it?
Well, I can't say that there was really any inspiration. This is what I had. I had gallons and gallons of paint, which again, oddly enough, I wasn't a street painter, street artist at the time, but I had all this paint because I'd been using it for other things. And I was just like, well, if I keep putting paint on it, surely it's going to do something. If you want to peg me down, there were these 2 artists out of Houston called the Art Guys, and they had this one piece they did called 1,000 Coats of Paint, and they would take like a teddy bear and they'd paint it with 1,000 coats of paint, and then they would cut it in half, and it was just the craziest thing to see all those layers of this built up paint.
Oh, yeah.
So there was a little bit of that as an inspiration, but I hadn't seen anything other than Fordite. You know, Fordite, they would scrape the floors of the old factories in Detroit and then throw those into rock tumblers and make these beautiful, you know, stone-like pieces of just layers of paint.
That's cool.
And so, yeah, those are like, you know, probably the only two things I had going into that. I was like, well, this is what I'm going to do. Let's see what it does. And then it turned out to be something that I liked very much.
That's pretty cool. I mean, it really, you know, it's a neat piece. I've had limited experience with finding, like, you know, my farm, I'll find some skulls and things out there. Usually they just reek to high heaven. So did you get a cleaned up skull to start with, or where did the skull come from?
Well, no, that was an actual mount. It was a mount that was damaged. An artist friend of mine who knits sweaters for taxidermy, she can't throw anything away. And she said, well, Doug, would you like this? Because I can't part with it. I can't throw it away. But if I give it to you, that's okay. My soul is okay if I give it to you. So I said, yeah, no, I'll take it. And this happened to be for the first time that we'd thrown on the Texas Art and Music Festival. And so she brings it up to me during the festival. And this is on that Saturday night when everybody's really lit. And I'm walking around with this buck with all these, you know, points on it. And this guy, he was like a perfect V, just all muscle and meat, turns around and impales himself on the antlers. And I'm like, oh shit. And he looks down at me and I'm like, I'm about to get my ass kicked. And he's like, are you okay? I'm like, yeah, dude, I'm great. Are you okay? He's like, yeah. I'm like, all right, I'm going home now. And so I took the mount home, and that was the end of that.
And we had the boar's head that I got
right
for Pig Pounder that was a little mangy. The hair was starting to fall off. It looked like that animal had not
it was not happy,
post-mortem.
No. And
so I think the paint helped hold it together a little bit better.
It did, and I actually took. I had some javelina skulls. I'd made some other work where I was like etching into the skull, so I popped the tusks off and glued them onto there, so they would stick out just a little bit more.
Nice. So we're probably making Jenna's stomach turn right now since she is a vegan. We're talking about dead mounted animals on the wall and turning them into art.
Yeah, I don't think I would take that direction with my art.
Well, then I won't tell you about the time that I actually had to boil a skull down, because that was really unpleasant.
Ooh. Well, the skull part, I guess that's not as bad. You know, like I have appreciation for the bone structure of humans and animals and things, and you know,
well,
I like the anatomy of things like that. You know, I took a lot of figure drawing classes. Mm-hmm.
So what's the closest to painting a series of skulls or some sort of crazy art project you've gotten into? Is it like a head of lettuce that got paint over it?
Oh, I don't know. Oh, that actually, I don't know. Can you paint on vegetables? I mean, how long would that last?
I guess you'd have to find it, because they would become mush. You could maybe cast one first.
You probably could.
And then paint over it.
Yeah. You know, I actually always thought about, like, you know, taking my veganism to the next level and like doing like a series of vegetable paintings or something like that. Or because, like, you know, because a lot of people might want to do like, you know, sad animal portraits where they look so sad. Like, why would you eat me? I'm so pretty and cute. And why would you know what I mean? Like, and I thought about doing that, and I was like, no, but that's just sad. I don't want to like spread sadness throughout the world. I want like fun imagery that like uplifts people, or just beautiful imagery. So yeah, I don't know. What projects have I gotten into that it's crazy? I don't know. I do so many random things.
I know you cover a lot of different projects.
Yeah, I do. I think it's my ADHD that kicks in, and I'm just like, oh, that sounds really cool. Let me do that. And it's like, it's totally, you know, totally different from something that I would normally do. I don't know. It's like when I saw the spray paint, I was like, you know, that looks cool. It's like something I could do, but like, I really want to focus mostly on spray paint now and do that. But, I don't know. I don't know how to answer that. I just,
now you've got the biggest wall you've ever done before.
I do.
Up in Eden, North Carolina.
I do. And it's been taking me forever to finish it, because I've had like various commissions throughout, you know, the time. And I was like, all right, well, between commissions, I'll go there and I'll work on it. But then like every time I want to go, it's like snowing or raining or whatever. North Carolina weather's crazy.
But I thought your spells, from the demonic doodle grid would correct the weather for you out there.
The crazy lady. Yeah. So the YouTube videos, there was I guess we should tell the background story. There was a woman who lives in Eden, I guess. And Eden is a very conservative area from what I'm understanding. I mean, I don't know that much about it, but they don't have much art.
Heard that it's got the largest number of churches per capita.
Oh,
really?
In Eden.
Wow, I didn't know that.
But I'm not sure that woman came from Eden. She came from
I don't know where she
space,
came. Yeah,
she was there.
She's from another planet, and she's like, she didn't shout me out because I didn't have my name written out anywhere. I don't think at the time. And she had seen my doodle grid, and so what a doodle grid is it's just a way that I can scale my design to the wall. And that's what I have to explain to people every time I make a mural, like the mural I'm painting right now, currently. Everybody that was passing by as I was first starting the mural, they're like, what are all these symbols for? It's like, and now I like to stick to just letters and numbers, to not, and like triangles and squares. And I like to stick to those particular things because like it won't be turned into something crazy. Because I used to do like all these weird little marks and swirls and stuff. And like I'd paint like a little eyeball or something, make it fun, a little smiley face, whatever. And then so I had like all these crazy symbols on the wall in Eden. And this woman, she's filming herself talking as she's like looking at the mural. And she's like, there's a demonic presence here. She's casting spells on all of us, and she's like, the end is near, and like things like that. And it's like, this is witchcraft and all sorts of things. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, this is hilarious. Like, she has no idea.
She was definitely an interesting woman, and I've somehow remained immune during that one.
I guess I was just there at the right time. Thankfully I wasn't physically there when she was doing this, because then I would have been like, what is this crazy lady doing? But anyway, so back to the doodle grid. The doodle grid is a way to scale to the wall.
No, so that people can truly appreciate what we're talking about here. I'll play a little sound.
Oh my gosh, please do.
This is from the End Times Truth Revelation.
Is that what she says?
Okay, this is the very next painting. Okay, so we just talked about the snake. Here's the next painting, and these paintings are still in progress. Which actually, you might be able to tell more about it because it's still in progress.
They're looking at Jenna's artwork in this with the doodle grid up.
See here, the machinery's in the way, but if you look at the face, does that not look demonic just off the bat?
She wasn't
Jenny,
done yet.
You got to stop making Cassie look demonic on there.
She wasn't done.
Okay. And this is going to be painted over.
Now she's pointing out Jenna's
all these symbols
grid
and stuff, right? They say this is a doodle grid.
They say.
But it's not just a doodle grid, okay? These are what are called sigils. It's a form of magic, and it's demonic. So under this painting,
use your magic to get that lift working a little bit more next time. I mean, come on.
I'll try.
Lift's breaking down over there. You can't use your magic and Satan symbols to get it going.
Into the occult, and I don't want to know. If you have Christ and you have the Holy Spirit, and you put on the full armor of God, you will be protected.
I didn't know I was a witch. I really didn't, but that's kind of exciting.
I didn't know Cassie was a demon.
And as an ordained minister over here, the Reverend Wayne approves.
Okay.
And just to show you that it's real.
That it's real.
One, you can see a bunch of sixes everywhere.
Oh, put a bunch of sixes in there.
Put a bunch of sixes.
Right there. There it is again.
I don't use the number 6 anymore in my doodle grids because of this lady.
Oh, that's a shame.
I know. I just don't want people to think weird things.
Whereas I
There's an
do.
upside down butterfly, which represents Monarch MK Ultra Mind Control, which is a
Mind
warlock.
control.
Monarch Ultra Mind
That's why all
Control.
these celebrities and stuff do what they
I need
do.
to look into this.
All these celebrities do it.
Again, you may not believe me.
It's like an Illuminati
If you
type
already
shit.
believe
Like,
in
is
God,
that?
pray about it.
I think she thinks that
Ask,
any
don't just write me off like you're trained to do.
we're
We
trained
grow
to
up in
write
a
her off.
world and we're trained to just immediately dismiss this stuff, but pray about it. Okay.
Pray for mental health resources to reach out to her for sure.
Eating the apple, tempted by Satan, making a demonic face, and this whole thing. Supposedly
Making a demonic
doodle bud
face.
is a bunch
You're
of
going to give
sigils.
Cassie a
spell,
complex, I think, with her
Right?
demonic portrayal.
Oh my goodness. Yeah. I told Marty the next day, I was like, yeah, I'm going to go out there in like a cloak and like, I'm going to have like a cloak and a hat and like dress like a witch just to scare her, if she comes back. But like now it's like, even when I go out there now and work on the painting, which I'm still working, it's 150 feet long, about like 45 feet high or something like that.
Probably
40,
some sort of
40 feet high. I don't know.
satanic dimensions there.
The satanic dimensions that I'm working on apparently. And it's just, so I keep going back and forth because, working on multiple things at the same time. And also I kind of like how it's taken me so long to work on it because I've gotten better since I started it. And I know this and I can feel it. So like now when I know when I go back to actually finish it, like it's really going to look better than it would have months ago, which is cool. But yeah, so back to the doodle grid. So I scale my design to the wall. So you scribble all of these random things all over the wall. They have no meaning whatsoever. People are like, what does that mean? It means nothing. Scribble whatever you want. You can even write your name. Like it doesn't matter. And then you take your design from like, say your iPad, like I do. And you overlay your design on top of the image of the wall with the scribbles all over it. And then you lower the opacity of the design image so that you can see through it and you can actually see all those mark makings that you made. And so that actually helps you find your dimensions. So like say like you want to find like where does the side of the face begin, and you'll know because it's right by that Z and that X and that 6 goes right through the 6. Yeah. So that's what that is. But yeah.
And it's interesting. I've watched a lot of different artists use different techniques for that. So some people will use, let's say, projection, and they'll do a trace. So
Right.
they'll project up on a wall. That's harder with the really big walls, but project up and then do an outline and trace around it to get part of the image. Some people will use the doodle grid out there. Adnate actually used an interesting technique. He would take a roller with some paint on it and just make random marks with the roller up and down the wall. It was a very quick doodle grid. And so he would just turn the handle of the roller so that it would, part of it might be heavy on one side or light on the other. So it wasn't consistent, and he knew where to look for that and where it would hit on there.
Well, I mean, yeah, any mark making, behind it would work. It's kind of like having like a brick wall, but a smaller brick wall, of course, because you can tell which line goes through which brick, that sort of thing. I don't know.
Yeah. So
any
make
cracks
sure
in the
you've
wall
got
help,
the eye in the right spot.
Yeah.
Nose in the right spot.
Gotta make sure you
With
don't
the
want to
right
make it look
proportions.
demonic. Actually, I really focused on fixing her face after that. I was like, this is not okay. She wasn't done.
So, Doug, what have you used for your doodle grid, or what system are you using right now?
I would like to say that I use a doodle grid because that sounds much faster than what I do. But I use an old school overhead projector, like with transparent. I put a transparency up there, and then I just quickly block in certain areas, and then I'll either have my phone in my hand or just a simple little color printout. And then a lot of it's just like, well, shit, I can't tell what that is. Let's just make something up and go with it from there. Because those who aren't familiar with what I do, my stuff tends to have kind of a swirl to it. So I have an open area of ambiguity that I can play around with. So if I really screw something up, it's like, well, let's just swirl this a little bit more, and then it blends in. And it's fine.
It's like drunk history, right?
Drunk history is the best.
That is funny.
So, talk a little bit more about your swirl technique, because that you have a reason for that.
I do.
Some people don't understand why.
I do have a reason for it. So I don't consider myself a really good storyteller, and it's like one of those things where it's like I really wish that I could tell stories, and people like come up like, oh shit, that guy's telling a story. Let's go and listen to this guy tell a story. So I tried to paint them, and I kept coming up kind of short. Like I'd make these really long, like half a page titles, and trying to be clever with that. And it still was just falling flat for me. And then just one summer I was sitting around just with ink and a brush and just kind of started doodling, looking at these old Rembrandt sketches. And I'm like, there's all this stuff that's in his drawings that just don't make sense. And I kind of like that. So then I was like, all right, let's play with this for a little bit. So I started, just playing with just the brush and swirling. And then I went over to my computer and I'm like, well, they make filters that do this. Let's play with those. So I started playing with them. And as I started going in and actually taking an original image and then twisting it and enlarging it and flipping it and just manipulating as much as I could on the computer, then I was like, okay, there's some gray area in here that nobody knows what it is. And so that's the best thing for telling a story. Because what I generally do is I research something to death, and then I start thinking about, well, where are the holes in this story? And then I would go in and make my work based on the holes in the story. And I think in some artist statement somewhere I said, I work in the gray area of history, the stuff where, like I could get up out of this chair right now and go punch Marty and everybody would be like, that instant I hit him is reality, but everybody be like, well, why did he hit Marty? Well, he had too much to drink. He had too much coffee, whatever. His allergies, he had a psychotic break, but they'd make up all these stories as to why I would do it. But it was like that moment was the actual history. And so like as a little kid, I remember we had a World Book Encyclopedia from 69 and 73. And as a little kid, like 5, 6, 7, and 8, I would grab these things and I would just read them. And I remember, reading something in one, like let's read about the Tyrannosaurus Rex in one, and then go read in the other one. It's like, well, it's different. It's shorter or it's longer. And I couldn't figure that out as a kid. Why is one story in the exact same book different than it is in this one? It's because there's no way we can have all the information at once. In fact, there's the French writer Diderot who actually tried to make this encyclopedia that everything could fit into. And it was already obsolete by the time it was pressed. And that's kind of what I love. I love the fact that we can sit here and keep telling each other the history or what's going on in the world today. And we might think we're a scholar. And I've had arguments with professors of history in Houston that say, no, you can't condense history like you're doing, whenever you're telling people about this, but it's kind of true. It's just it's fluid.
And that's your primary street art style right now.
It is.
And you've got the piece in Eden, the Adam and Eve in the Garden of Eden.
Right.
There. You've got the Battle of Guilford, both at the Art Park and at Red Cinemas.
Right.
And then you have a fourth piece
out in Greenville, South Carolina. And then I just did the straight religious one in Eden as well.
Right, yeah. Mm-hmm. The Sistine Chapel type.
Yeah.
And what was the reference photo for that one?
It was actually a Baroque painting from Il Gesù. And I got it all messed up. So I projected it, and I was having a bad night. Because I think whenever I was doing it, everybody was out there painting, and nobody knew what to do with all the lifts, so they weren't plugging them in. So it was like this weird apocalypse with all these lifts out just in the middle of parking lots that wouldn't run anymore. So I got out there, and my transparency was backwards and upside down, and then I got it right side up, and then everything that I was going to use to mark it on there stopped working. And another artist just drove by and he's like, oh man, I got you. And he gave me these acrylic markers. And so I was like, all right, I got enough on there. And so it's just like this nightmare start for me. So when I look at it historically for what it is, I put my head down because it's not Il Gesù. But when I turn that part of my brain off, I look at it, I'm like, that's not so bad. It's pretty good. I like it.
Because you had the same criticism of your piece by the same woman, the original piece.
Oh, she's talked. I didn't know she talked about mine.
I think she did.
Did she? I guess she did.
Well, if she did, then
I think she might have.
Because I know she had, I think 4 started off, and she went over Aaron's.
She talked about Aaron's snake that he painted first,
and she talked about the Eve gene. Of Romans.
Yeah, which I mean, really.
And then she talked about
this piece is great.
oh gosh, for the two angels.
Oh yeah.
Jaleel.
Yeah.
Jaleel Ronan. Yeah.
Yeah. She didn't get yours there. I think that was a whole other Facebook thread where they were talking about.
Oh, okay. Well,
Yeah,
Facebook
probably.
thread's great.
You had your nice trolls out there on that piece too.
I don't get enough trolls.
I'm almost sad my name was never mentioned in this, honestly.
So speaking of which, I mean, you know, when you're doing things that are out there and they're independent and you're challenging some different ideas and not conforming, you're going to get some haters out there, some trolls out there.
Oh yeah.
So
absolutely.
So Jenna, let's hear about your trolls out there. Who are they? What sort of pushback do you get? You also can get some when you're doing something unique and doing well. You can get kind of a jealousy. That occurs too.
Yeah, you know, over the past couple of years, as I've become more successful in what I'm doing, there were some people that were my friends, you know, long ago, before I started doing this. And once I started to, I guess, become a little more successful than them, then they just kind of started treating me differently and kind of not inviting me to things and stuff. And I was like, this is kind of weird. Like, what's going on? And, you know, so eventually I just kind of let it go and, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, like, cause you know, I got a bunch of attention from a few different things. I did a nurse painting during the whole pandemic, and it was towards the beginning of the pandemic, and I was really bored. And I just really wanted to practice spray paint. And the only thing I had spray painted, the only person that I had spray painted before that was the M&M piece at Pig Pounder. That was my first human portrait I ever attempted, which now that I look at that, I think it looks like shit. Like, I don't like it. And people are like, no, I love it. And I'm like, no, you don't. You don't love it. I'm going to paint something better right over it. So I already have plans for that. But I know I can do so much better now. So, you know, whatever. But yeah, so I decided to go out to the Pit and High Point. And I went out with, you know, a couple other artists. And I didn't really know what to paint until like that morning. You know, I was looking on my phone. I was like, all right, maybe I'll do something of a nurse since, you know, like they're working really hard. You know, all this craziness is going on. They're having to deal with so much. And, you know, I had one of my old roommates and best friend of mine, Renee in Florida. She's a nurse, and I knew that she was probably going through a lot. And I was like, let me do a little tribute for the nurses, or not just the nurses, but the healthcare industry in general, for the healthcare workers. And so I found this lovely image on Google of a nurse, and like her eyes were really pretty, and it was just like a really clear image of like, you know, her, and it's like half her face was kind of in the dark. And I was like, oh, that's kind of nice, because it's kind of they were like the light and the dark kind of thing. So I named it The Light. I painted, you know, this nurse face. And, you know, so we went there actually 2 days. The first day I just kind of primed, and we kind of like, you know, talked and messed around and just kind of like buffed over some shit and whatever. And then we went back the next day. I spent 8 hours painting this nurse and took some photos of it, whatever, popped them online, went to bed, woke up at like 7 a.m. My phone's blowing up, and I'm like, what is going on? You know? And so like I had all these different news, like news channels contacting me, reporters calling me. I had my phone was like my Instagram, my Facebook, everything was blowing up. People contacted me from all over saying, oh, this is so amazing. Where is this? What can I do? You know, I was like, oh my God. This kind of got to the point of overwhelm for me. I was like, I'm not used to having this much attention. But yeah, I was being alongside a couple people, or one person in particular. It didn't really sit with her very well. So, you know, it kind of sucks that, I would say she would now be considered a hater of mine for sure.
You know, it's unfortunate that happens. And I think that, you know, one of the things that I note about people that I enjoy spending time around is they're always striving to be better. Like you're talking about looking back and saying, hey, I painted this piece, but now I think it looks like crap. Or I worked on this piece, but I kind of messed up on this process. Mm-hmm. And it's that self-awareness and self-improvement that I think allows people to kind of get to that next level and keep growing. I know Jex does that as well, where he's constantly working to, you know, improve his skills. And,
right.
you know,
I do that. I'm trying this podcast out and trying out video. I always feel like each year you need to be learning something new or improving your skill set. Otherwise you're just stagnant.
Yeah.
And I think when you're doing a lot of new things like that and pushing the limits and achieving success, you're going to draw, like you said, media attention and people saying, wow, this is cool. But when that happens, it can make others sometimes feel like, well, why are they getting all the attention and why am I not getting what I deserve? And, I see that a lot in the art world. Some people wanting instant success, not willing to put in the hours, not willing to train.
Yeah.
And then they're frustrated when they don't get it. And especially in graph. I mean, that really
it's a slow process. Learning spray paint is so frustrating. Like I can't tell you how many times I cussed at myself while I was trying to figure out spray paint. I was like, this is supposed to be transparent black. Why is it coming out like this? And I was just spraying it wrong. I was using the wrong caps. I was using the wrong technique. I wasn't, there's so many different things that are involved in spray paint and like getting can handling right. And I still think I'm shit, like, which is great because I always want to improve myself. As you said, I always want to, get better. I want to get faster, really, because I'm a perfectionist. And so like, I'm trying to push past that as much as possible. But yeah, I want to get faster. I want to get better. I want to get that technique down,
When I was over in the Netherlands in January and had a chance to go to the Street Art Museum, and they were gracious enough to let me paint on a couple of their walls there.
Cool.
And I did that not because I had a burning desire to paint, but because I had a burning desire to better understand y'all's process. And also, what would it be like in another country, not speaking the language, not knowing where you're going, trying to organize everything, and really having all that stuff lined up, having your paint, having your ladder, having all your gloves and everything else tackled for you and ready and at the site and secured and the wall buffed, really makes, I think, a world of difference. And so it gave me a greater appreciation for that. Also, you're sitting there at the wall, you've just buffed out this nice area. You don't really want to leave because you leave and somebody's like, now I've got a great spot to paint.
You have to hold your pee a lot.
Yeah. And I was out there, it was freezing cold. And, my piece lasted all of a day. The next day there's these two girls that had never even painted before that are cutting over one of my pieces on half of it. And I was like, that's the way art is. And that's what I like about street art too, is it's ephemeral and meant to be enjoyed in the moment. Now, of course, you would like for your piece to stay up so that others can see it. But now that's part of, you've got to take a photo, but you never know unless it's a kind of a guaranteed wall, which is what I try and do with mine is those are protected walls because they're permission walls, but still just painting in the pit.
Yeah.
You could be painting over the next day.
Exactly. And, that happens a lot at the pit. It's all transient. It's all transient art, but my nurse painting, actually, I guess people really liked it so much. It was up for like 3 months before it was tagged.
Oh, not bad.
Yeah. Which was really, really cool. But yeah, one of the reasons why so-and-so, I'm not going to name who it was, but is a hater of mine. Hers was painted over the next day, and hers was painted like a couple pieces down from mine, at the pit, the same. And mine was up there for like 3 months. 3 months. So I think that's a record for the pit. It's nuts.
Yeah, I think it's, it's quality. So if you're painting a high quality piece, it tends to stay up longer. People appreciate it. And then also it can be messaging or content too that can help with that.
I think she has a hater, it's got to be somebody in particular, because it's like apparently this particular person has like a very particular signature or something that they say over her stuff, and it's like they know it's hers, and so they try to tag over her stuff. So it's like everybody has a hater of some sort.
Abstract Descent has that. I was gonna with the art park.
I love him.
When I was doing that, I thought, oh well, I'll do it like a open walls. People can come in and paint whatever they want. And then I went down to Salisbury and saw the art park where he normally paints. And you see these nice pieces and like several hours later they're painted over.
Yeah.
And then it looks like crap.
Yeah. It's a mess out there.
Not even someone that's learning. It's someone just wanting to destroy. And I just can't get that mindset.
Yeah. I don't understand that either. Like, you know, because they'll just tag like dumb stuff or just put X's over things.
Right.
I'm like, can't you find something better to do with your time?
Well, yeah, it's funny. Like when I was commissioning all these artists to come in and paint at the Texas Art and Music Festival, I remember sitting around and talking to one of them. And at that time, you know, my knowledge of street art was pretty minimal. It'd been years. I mean, I'd studied as far as, you know, who was coming out of West Coast and whatnot. But if you ask me, you know, like all the, you know, the pantheon of names that Marty has in his memory bank, I'm like, I have no idea who the hell you're talking about. But so I would sit there and I would talk to these artists and just, you know, eat up everything that they said. And I remember this one kid, young guy out of Austin, said, well, you know, there's an etiquette out there. And he said, not everybody follows it. He said, but you shouldn't touch somebody else's piece unless you can do better.
Yes. That's technically the rule. Also, they say you're supposed to take a photo of it and shout them out, you know, on the internet, you know, before you paint over it. You know, that's what they say, graffiti world, YouTube videos that I watch, you know, that's what they told me.
That's what they
This is what I hear.
That's what they say.
That's what they say.
And if you're going to paint over it, you're supposed to buff the whole piece. Not do it.
You can never buff half the piece. If you buff half a piece, that's like, that's kind of like a punch in the face. You know, it's kind of like a jab.
Okay.
It's like a jab. It's like a diss. It's like a diss to them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. See, whereas me, if I were painting over somebody's pieces, like I'd want certain elements to shine through because I want I want the history of what was on that wall to come through into my piece.
Yeah, that pissed some people off probably.
Now it's funny out back here where Ramon did the Where the Wild Things Are.
Yeah.
I actually, you know, before I had that reserved for him, and then Jackson, Overt, and Grower were going to paint back there, and they wanted to paint on the raw concrete. And I said, well, just so you know, Ramon is going to come back and paint this other piece back here. And I said, and would you mind if he painted and cut into your piece and left some of the letters in there? And because it was intentional and they knew that he would work around it and work with the piece, they were fine with that. And I think it's a really strong piece.
It came out really nice.
But that's with the permission of all the artists involved instead of, you know, it's not, if they'd said, no, we want it, you know, buffed over them, that's what we would have done.
Right. Well, good to know. I'm 51 and still learning.
Yeah, so you can check with the other artists and see what they want.
There you go. Okay.
So, you know, the theme of this podcast is Mavericks. And so the idea of being independent. And I almost think that anyone that's chosen an artistic endeavor to pursue has probably faced a lot of, well, why don't you get a real job? Or why don't you, you know, go into business or nursing or become a doctor or a lawyer out there? Did y'all face any of that as you were growing up, that your parents were kind of directing you to pursue kind of a real career? You know, because a lot of times people talk about the starving artist out there, or the.
I'm going to say yes, no. My mother, who turns 95 this year, has been very good about encouraging me to be who I want to be. Or, you know, she's never said, you know, my recollection, don't do that. But she's also come out and said, well, when are you going to start making real art, you know, like a landscape or something? So I know she doesn't like what I do, but she's very proud of me for what I do. I think the only thing I may have had
now, backing up a minute, did you say you said your mother was 95?
Yeah, she's going to be 95 in May. Still independent, still driving, just passed her driver's test when we moved here to North Carolina 4 years ago, when she was 90, I think she was 92 at the time, and she hadn't taken that test since she was 16, and she passed, you know.
Well, that bodes extremely well for you.
Yeah,
with,
good genes.
Good
genes, yeah.
But so she had to have had you kind of later in life as well then.
Yes, I was an accident, possibly a Valentine's baby. I'm not, I haven't really done the check back, but yeah, I think my youngest sibling is 10 years older than me, and my oldest sibling is 20 years older than me.
Wow.
And then as of this last year, I became a great uncle on my birthday.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
It is crazy. Growing up an uncle with, you know, my niece and nephew in high school. So everybody just jokingly calling me Uncle Doug.
That's hilarious. Great uncle.
Great Uncle Doug, yeah.
I would be happy to make it to be a great great uncle one day, but to be a great great uncle now, so you're likely to be a great 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 uncle. Before you kick the bucket.
I don't want to wish, too much on that because, I don't know what somebody's life plan is going to be, being that, little Charlotte is, not even a year old. But yeah, that'd be kind of cool.
That would be.
Yeah.
I forgot what I was even asking because that was just so surprising.
Oh, you were asking about, did we get any kind of kickback?
Oh, yeah. So
I said the only time I think, and I love my brother. My brother's been very good, a very strong supporter of mine for years. But I know when I started out, he kept saying, Doug, you need to take more business classes. And I'm like, they make my stomach churn. It's like, I'm not you. He's very type A. And so like he loves the art of negotiation. And I've grown to love it. But back then it's like, I can't sit around doing numbers and stuff like that. It just, at that point I was way too much of a hippie. And then, my punk rocker kind of kicked back in again. And I'm like, well, yeah, I could do that. I can do whatever I need to do.
So in your career, over the years, what other jobs have you had, or what, how prominent has art been? When did you become kind of a full-time, artist?
I don't know if I can even call myself a full-time artist today, just because, I think we're all shucking and jiving to try to, get that one next step up. I served coffee. I've served ice cream. I worked at a Kmart for a summer. That was awful. Worked at Arby's for like a month. That was awful. And then, started teaching. And then when I was teaching art. So that put me back in the game. And then I don't sleep much, so I make a lot of art.
And when did you start teaching?
I think it was in 96.
That's a while.
Yeah, it's been a while. And started with high school, then went to middle school, then
you were only great uncle then. Not a great great uncle probably then.
96.
Or maybe just an uncle then.
No, I think I was a great uncle by then. That's time. I have a hard time with calendars. My kids give me a hard time because we'll go to like CVS to get their prescription. They'll say birthday, and I'll turn and look at them like, Dad. I'm like, I wouldn't remember my own birthday if you guys didn't show up with a cake.
And Jenna, you've just made the transition to full-time artist a couple of years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And before that, I know you worked at Bearded Goat and were in bartending.
Mm-hmm.
Other gigs along the way, and what did people think about you going into the?
Yeah, well, I was very, very blessed to have come from such an artist supportive family. So actually, I come from a family of artists, essentially. In a way, just my parents, really, not really their parents or anything. I don't know really where it came from, but I'm a Hasbro kid. When I was a kid, like a really little kid, we lived in Pawtucket, Rhode Island, because my dad worked for Hasbro. He actually started to be a graphic designer before graphic design was a thing. Oh, wow. So he actually used to hand draw the packaging for Hasbro. So like all the old school G.I. Joe packaging and stuff, my dad used to hand draw that for the packaging.
That's so cool.
Back in like the 80s and stuff, and so like he had his little drafting table downstairs where I had all my Hasbro toys and stuff that he would get for free from like designing the packaging and everything. It was really cool.
Does he still have those original sketches and drawings?
He does have some. Yeah, I'm sure he does. I'm absolutely sure he does.
A show.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, that would be really fun. I wonder if Hasbro has like copyrighted some of that, or like what the deal with that might be. He still does some work for Hasbro now. He works for packaging consultants in New Bedford, Massachusetts, and he's been there for, I don't know, 25 years or something. He's been there for a long time. So after Hasbro, that's where he went, and he's been there ever since. And so of course he learned all the computer stuff. And so now he does all like graphic design type stuff. And he's more of like management at this point. Like he doesn't do as much of the designing as he would probably like to. And he's very talented. He's done work for, the shiny packaging on the Titleist golf balls. Yeah. Like he designed those.
Oh, neat.
he does like FootJoy, Titleist, Yankee Candle. He still does some stuff for Hasbro here and there. So like companies from all over the world will come to this company and have them, produce their packaging for them and stuff. So he actually taught me how to draw at a very, very young age. He knew some people that like worked for some comic books or whatever. So he gave me all these Marvel comic book drawing books when I was like a kid. And I remember sitting there and just like trying to draw these superheroes and stuff, and just trying to get like the anatomy right and everything. And middle school or whatever, I'm drawing these things. And so yeah, he taught me how to draw the figure and things like that at a very young age. And so it kind of brought me to where I am now. But I never thought I'd be a full-time artist. I've had various jobs. I was actually overall, I was a bartender for like 12 years. And I was getting so tired of it. I loved working at the Bearded Goat. Honestly, that was hands down my favorite bar that I ever worked at. It was just very fitting for me. It was very chill vibe, very hipsterish, kind of fun atmosphere with like a great whiskey selection. And it was just it was a nice, I would say dive bar, but it's nicer than a dive bar. I don't know how you would describe it. I mean, Marty, you've been there. So. Yeah.
A bougie dive bar.
A bougie dive bar, yeah, with a really nice patio with picnic tables and street art outside too. So I painted on some of their patio walls and things too. So I grew up with like a mother who was kind of like, I like to tell people she's like Martha Stewart without the jail time. She's all the little crafty things I grew up doing with her. So, I mean, when I decided to go full time, of course they were a little bit, like maybe a little bit worried, but at the same time, it's like my mom always told me, she's like, Jen, I don't know. You always figure it out. They just trust me to just figure it out because I always do. I don't know how. They're like, Jen just figures it out. I don't worry about her, so,
we need to have you do a mural with your dad and do like a G.I. Joe package, kind of like the Leon
that would be
Keir
awesome.
style.
Oh, that'd be cool.
And do that 3D where you're kind of looking in.
Yeah, that'd
like
be neat.
Box.
That would be neat.
And then he would know the perspective of all the different design on the box to kind of go around.
Yeah, we could do like a whole like Trompe l'oeil, mural where it's like, it looks super 3D fun. Yeah, that'd be cool. Yeah, and I've been trying to get him to come down here and visit again. I mean, I've only gotten to see him maybe like once a year over the past several years because, he's in Massachusetts. I'm working all the time. He has to work all the time and everything. So,
a really cool nod right now that would be relevant would be the president of Ukraine as like G.I. Joe.
Oh.
And then the box in there.
Yeah. Oh, that'd be cool. That'd be a fun one.
That would be a fun one.
Oh, I need to break some time, get some time in my schedule. I have so many projects coming up and I just have all these ideas for all these things I want to do, but I just have so many different projects coming up and all these different clients wanting different things. And I'm like, I can fit you in like 6 months, maybe. I don't know. And they're like, really that long? And I'm like, yeah.
So you're doing a ton of commissions right now.
Yeah. You're on my list too. Obviously to finish the Eden one is top priority. It's one of my top priorities right now. And then we still have the Marie Antoinette that we want to do. Eating the cake. We took pictures of Cassie, smashing cake into her face, the Marie Antoinette let them eat cake kind of thing. But that's what I want to paint over the M&M at Pig Pounder.
And I used one of those reference images for a let them eat cupcakes and drink whiskey party that we did down at ICSC Charlotte.
That's fun. That's really cool.
That has her there doing that, and then you get the whiskey overlay on it. So.
Yeah, but anyway, yeah, I'm really grateful to have a very supportive family. Also, my brother's an artist too, in several different senses. My brother's a genius, really. But he's mixing some music for my YouTube channel now. I'm coming up with like kind of like a trailer video for it. It's Jenna Art on YouTube.
Now that's the one that you're doing. That's like 50 or 100 episodes you're going to do.
Yeah.
Have you heard about this, Doug?
Just today.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So So I actually won a grant from the North Carolina Arts Council this year.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I was really excited. I just spent like 6 hours one day putting together this proposal, and I was like, I don't know if they're going to accept this. I was like, this is a little absurd, to say that, I want to, for the grant, I want my project to be for a YouTube channel. But there really is kind of a void. And actually over the past couple of years, there's not as much of a void now, but a couple of years ago, there was a huge void in the YouTube world on spray paint art videos. And I know this because I would research it all the time because I was just trying to learn. And there are little things that are just not taught very well by certain YouTubers, or taught incorrectly, or it's hard to understand what they mean when they say things. And I'm just like, oh, maybe I could teach this a little bit better. And I love to teach. I love to teach people how to do things. I have an intern right now from UNCG. I'm teaching her some stuff, and she's really enjoying it and learning a lot. She's a very motivated kid, and I'm very, very proud of her for like working so hard to try to. She's trying to be me. I'm like, are you sure you want to do that? But yeah, I'm going to teach. So it's going to be a series of 50 videos throughout the year. And I'm still filming and editing some now. I haven't dropped any over the past month or so. I've been catching up on my commissions. And as soon as that's done, then, I'm going to start putting these out. But I do have a schedule of my YouTube stuff for myself to do to keep me on track. But to teach them things like the different kinds of caps, the difference between a high pressure and a low pressure can, the things that you don't really know and don't really learn, like even short videos that explain little things, can handling wise. And just about the different brands of paint and like my favorite brands of paint, or the things that I use, how to scale a mural to a wall with a doodle grid. I already have a video of that. And actually that has a ton of views. It's not even that great of a video, but it's about the content. It's not necessarily about the quality.
Well, like you said, I think people are trying to learn this new medium, and a lot of people coming from more of a fine art background sometimes. And so they may never have held a can before, and they don't even know, do I go buy it at Home Depot, or where do I buy the cans?
Like where to buy the cans, like the different websites you can buy from, that sort of thing. I want to eventually, with these 50 videos, it's going to make me more consistent on YouTube too. And once I'm more consistent on YouTube, then I'll get a larger following. I have over 1,000 subscribers on YouTube right now, which is pretty good for a start.
That's not bad.
Yeah. For a start, that's not bad. And it keeps growing. Like I haven't looked at it in over a week. So like, who knows? Like I could have like 1,100 or something. I don't know.
How many different videos have you posted so far?
God, I don't know, like maybe 20.
Okay,
like not very many, but this has been like 20 videos over the past, like, I don't know, 3 years. So it's been a long time, but most of my older videos are of like acrylic paintings and painting value with color and things like that, painting my colorful abstract portraits that I do. Like I have that one of Bill Murray that's hanging at Common Grounds in Greensboro that a lot of people know and love. And that's like one of my favorites for sure. And so I was just at Common Grounds yesterday, and I got to see him in person again. So that was nice.
Peter Draws that did he did all the doodles in the restrooms at Pig Pounder, and he has a massive following. I think it's like 1 million followers on YouTube.
Yes. And he's very consistent on YouTube, and I need to start doing that.
And he's showing people what to do, so they're kind of watching along and they're drawing along too. That's really neat.
Yeah.
I'd like to see us do more of that. I think a couple things we're missing in Greensboro right now are street art tours. If we could get some tours going where people are brought around. And
yes, I was just thinking about that yesterday.
And then I think some classes too.
Yeah, I really would love to do some classes. I think that would be fun. And actually that's part of my my deal with the North Carolina Arts Council. I said I'm going to teach a free class at like a community college or somewhere nearby. I originally said high school, and I was thinking to myself, I was like, well, if they're not 18 yet, they technically aren't allowed to use spray cans unless they get, I guess, parental permission or something, because you have to be 18 and up to buy the cans. Yeah.
If only we knew someone that knew something about teaching art.
I know.
Well, see, this is funny because I'd won a grant to at Guilford Tech to basically introduce a street art program.
Oh, cool.
Because of the fact
I'm in.
that, because of the fact that, it's so super hot. Everybody wants to know how to do it now, and nobody knows how to do it.
Right.
And so I wrote this grant out with artist stipends to bring people in, talk to a couple of artists. I'm not going to talk to you after this podcast. But then it got caught up in red tape. But I know that the college still wants to do it.
Right.
The idea that we could be like one of the forerunners in the community college and college world as far as educating for street art has everybody excited. We just got to, do all the paperwork still.
Right.
So my grant got put on hold, and we'll have to
That's too bad.
hit that again later. I mean, we got all our paperwork in now. I think it's just we have to sit in a room with everybody. But
Right. It's a waiting game. But yeah, I think that's a great idea, because there's no formal training for this. People are like, did you go to college for street art? And I was like, no. I don't think that's a thing,
Right.
I have my degree in oil painting, though. I have my BFA in studio art,
Right.
But
it's
yeah,
interesting. So you take y'all's background more in fine art and training and study, and then you take Jack's and no background in art like that. I think he said he took like an AP class back when he was in high school. But other than that, it's been all more graph driven. We're going out painting, and did the same thing, more going out tagging as well. So in the graffiti world, y'all are running across different people from different backgrounds. And I'd say right now, I bump into people, it's maybe 50-50 out there of background coming from fine art or other art styles into street art, and some people coming from graph in there. What's been y'all's experience in terms of the background of other artists you've run into?
The people that I've run into, and again, in Texas, it was definitely a more cutthroat experience than it is here. So like, I know I've told this story to people before where artists that I've worked with or that I knew very well, if I would invite them out to paint for the festival, and of course we did everything we could to treat them and pay them and put them up in nice hotels and all that, everything would go great until we had to start talking brass tacks, and they'd be like, then they would back off me, and I'm like, dude, it's me. You know me. We've done this before. Why are you so apprehensive? But it's because they've been burned so many times out there. But then coming out here to North Carolina, meeting you, Marty, it's like suddenly it's a golden world, and everybody in Texas is like, can we come out and visit? It's like, yeah, please come out and visit. But most of the people I meet have, I can't say like they don't have an MFA in painting or anything like that, but they have an art background. But it seems like a lot of people just went out there and just started pushing the paint until they figured it out. And me being the total like chemical technical geek that I am, it's like the idea of going, I'm going to go spend, $500 in paint just so I can sit there and learn this one technique is tough for me. So it's, that's why I'm probably the slowest of any of the people here in Greensboro. But,
I'm slow too.
well, yeah, you got a huge wall.
Yeah, I guess you're right.
Well, that's why I've been trying to do with the loft and have the supplies there. And right now we've got a pretty good selection of cans out there. With we've consolidated most of the cans in, and I just agreed yesterday to buy all the inventory from Buddha's Belly.
Oh, nice.
So we'll add in all of those cans, and then we'll take the designer cans, the specialty cans, and use those on a display in the loft somewhere.
Oh, nice.
And then take a lot of the markers and the rest of that, put that in inventory until my plan is to do a graph shop down at Trax.
Right.
And have a shop there. What I really want to do is just have enough inventory. So I'd like to have 10,000 cans down there, and have that way when y'all need a color or a can, we know we have it, and we maintain a par level for that. And then have a way to take that and put that into a database online so that you could actually just see online what's there and if it's in stock. And then if you reserve it, you reserve it right there, and then we pull it, and then you have it, and maybe even look into delivery. So if you're out on a job and you need 50 cans, that we can actually deliver those cans to you.
That'd be so nice.
Because I think that's one of the things that people are frustrated by.
Yes.
You're going around, you're hunting for paint, you're looking all over the place.
Yeah, driving to Raleigh.
Yeah, I've driven to Raleigh before for like 50 cans, or you have to drive to Charlotte for cans and all different pricing, and you don't know if it's going to be there when you get there. And it's just, so the graph shop for me isn't really about serving the public; it's about serving the artist.
Right.
Right. And I appreciate that. So when is this happening?
Well, we're gonna have our own graph shop effectively out at the loft, probably the 6th. Is when
cool.
we start moving paint in.
That's awesome. Have you organized that paint room yet? Yeah, because I know you had all those cans everywhere.
No,
okay,
so I got to organize. So between now and the 6th, I have to organize all those cans.
Well, I mean, my intern and I were talking about doing it for you. So,
sweet. Yeah.
Give us something to do.
Oh, yeah. Thank you very much. That'd be awesome.
Well, you let us use the loft, so I took my intern, Natalie Robinson. I took Natalie to the loft with me, and I was teaching her techniques, and we're just like literally scribbling on the wall. We're going to cover that, by the way.
Yeah, that's what it's there for.
It's just like literal, like actual scribbles, like all over the wall. Just because I was teaching her, like, keep the can level to the wall, keep it the same distance. And I'm teaching her how to, and she's left-handed too. So this has been interesting.
That is interesting.
So I'm teaching her with my right hand, and she's working with her left hand. It's
you almost need
cool.
like a mirror or something.
I know. Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, she gets it. She's getting it. It's just, it's going to take a little time because she's, fine art background too. So.
Well, if you restocked, I definitely got to come back out and visit again because I'm all these Baroque colors. I think the last time I went out there was all these super electric street colors. I'm like, well, I can't use anything but the black maybe. So, I grabbed a couple of cans of black.
So we're adding 305 gold cans.
Nice.
How many he's got on here? Like 153 black cans. And 153 94 cans.
Mm-hmm.
And then I don't know how many Montana black. It looks like
I can probably remember the exact colors that Buddha's Belly had left whenever he closed. Because
it's a bunch, but it's a bunch of cans and then a bunch of markers, caps.
There's a bunch of colors that I didn't need at the time. That's why I remember what they were. It's like the only colors that I needed. He didn't have in stock.
Usually the colors that I want.
Right. Yeah. I guess you're right. Yeah.
And then a bunch of the artist cans, which will be neat too. So those will be on display in the gallery room.
Yeah, those
cool.
Those cans are great. Yeah, one of my goals in life is to have my artwork on one of those cans. It's gonna happen.
We should just start making them up, like making them and sticking them on there.
I mean, we
doing
could.
our own little
Why not?
cans. That'd be fun.
Yeah, we should make Kotis Street Art cans.
Oh yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah, you should. Marty, make your own brand of paint. Oh my god,
genius!
That'd be fun. Well, we've got Sherwin-Williams here. Maybe they would partner up to do some sponsored cans.
Hey, maybe they're cool people. They're low stock of paint still, since COVID, but I think they're working on it.
So right now it looks like, Jerry's has got maybe, let's call it 4,000 cans over there, I think, somewhere in that range.
Yeah, Jerry's has a lot. They usually are stocked up.
Got a good sized paint room. So we'll move up. I think now with the cans we have and the cans we're getting, we'll have close to their inventory levels out at the loft. And I've got to, figure out how to kind of manage, because we haven't had it abused much, but a couple times some artists have been a little heavy-handed with loading up their vehicles when they're headed out of town.
So, some artists, yeah, I could see that.
That's why I like people when they fly in. They're not taking it back out.
Hey, there you go. And then you have the nice people like,
well, like y'all. Yeah. I mean, I know. And that's what it's
I always
there
under
for.
grab. It's like, I'm like,
Yeah.
oh man, I should have just grabbed 2 more cans. I need 2 more cans.
I always give back more than I probably should because I'm like, I think this was his can. I don't know. I'll just give it back.
The goal is to have, all these different colors because you might just need a touch of a can. Mm-hmm. You don't need the full can. And then that way you're not limited to just, 20 crayons in the box. You've got, 500 crayons to pick from, and you can use what you need.
Yeah, I use so many colors too. It's kind of annoying how many colors I use. I have like 300 cans in my car right now. Like, no joke, for this one painting that I'm working on at the Elks Lodge.
I'm in my mother's car today, and there's 2 cans in the car right now. And it's like, it's my mother's car. I don't know why I have 2 cans in her car.
Yeah.
So in terms of places you go for supplies, so you go to Jerry's or went to Buddha's Belly for stuff there.
I miss Buddha's.
Where else do you shop for spray paint and supplies?
I can't remember the name of the place, but there was this cool little shop in Greenville, South Carolina. Like they had these little like half cans and just weird little colors. But I only went in there once. And, you know, so that, and then of course, oddly enough, you know, Hobby Lobby has iron lac and usually has it on sale.
They do. They're always on sale. And they're always on clearance sale. So they're $5.99 a can.
$5.99,
which is a really good price comparatively to like the other cans. Then again, iron lac is it's not as good of a paint as like Montana Gold or 94, you know, in my opinion. But I do like some of their colors. But like they have like maybe a selection of, I don't know, 10 different colors, like nothing crazy. Every once in a while you'll find a transparent, you know, transparent black, transparent white. Like that's what I look for. I look for those if they have them. But yeah.
My goal with the graph shop is, well, one, we've got it out at the loft. So, I mean, worst case, we've got a stock there. And so my plan is to stock up, have the paint that everybody needs. And that way I'm not having to run around and try and find the paint or buy it and know that I've got it. That way I've got it at the loft.
Right.
But then to do a graph shop over in Tracks and have that available, including after hours access to
and
it.
That's
too.
a perfect spot too. Like that's closer to everyone and everything. Like my opinion, like I loved Buddha's Belly so much. I just always wished it were in like a more convenient location for me.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it made sense with the art park, but if you weren't working in the art park,
right,
then you were kind of like, well,
yeah.
okay.
And I live just outside of Greensboro, like on your way to Burlington. So it's like, it's only like 15 minutes from downtown, but it would have been a lot closer for me to just go downtown to get a can. You know?
Well, and going to Jerry's, you're right on the highway. So
right,
I
that's
think
true.
For people coming from Raleigh or Charlotte, they're in a good, Jerry's is in a good spot.
I do like how Jerry's is right off the highway. It is in kind of like a weird little sketch area next to this bar that's like, it's open, but there's never anyone there. I'm like, what
Cupid's
is this like
corner and with the burnt out sign?
Yeah, it's really creepy.
So did I tell you all about taking Bella Fame over there one time?
No.
So we're driving down the highway. We're going to Jerry's and we're on 40. And I hear what sounds like a car backfiring in front of us.
Oh, geez.
And it's not. I realized very quickly, and I tell them to duck down because
Somebody
it's
was shooting? Oh, my God.
2 cars shooting at each other driving
on the
down
highway?
40, on highway.
Oh, my God.
And so we veer off onto the off ramp, and I tell them to duck. And then this weird car at the top of the ramp reverses down at high speed and stops in front of us. And I was like, oh my God, you know, we're going to have this person shoot at us right in front of us. So we sped off, and I don't know if they were part of the same group or if they were undercover police or what was going on. So, what are some of your, if you could wave a magic wand this year, what are some projects you would like to do? And also, what are some thoughts on how we can elevate Kotis Street Art to the next level, like the graph shop or bigger inventory or a symposium or different things? And
well,
Doug, you've been great about being part of, Jenna, I'm going to have to rope you into this too, because you're organized, but we need to, I'm trying to get a board set up for Kotis Street Art, because I want to make sure that it's around. Doug with his great genes will be around till he's 95. I don't know how long I'm going to last.
Hopefully.
Plenty of time left.
I want to make sure that long after I'm gone, there's people that are able to keep pushing that forward.
I'm vegan and in my 30s. So
there you go. You're going to be around for a while.
Yeah.
Well, you know, and I've said this to you before. I think that what you've done here in Greensboro and how it's extended out further in North Carolina is kind of creating a scene here that wasn't. I mean, we're showing up on top 10 lists now.
Oh, it's amazing.
And if, you know, I've only been here 4 years, but talking to people who have grown up here and they say, oh yeah, 10, 20 years ago, this is unheard of. for this kind of a visual explosion for the arts. I think it's just some things I think are beyond your control. I think somebody needs to come in with a blue chip gallery or a blue chip museum of sorts. Maybe it's a not-for-profit. I don't know. But there needs to be something that attracts more artists here, because we've got Elsewhere, and Elsewhere is fantastic. And still most people don't know about Elsewhere. So it's like combination of you and Elsewhere and Green Hill and Weatherspoon. Yeah, it's like we all just need to sit at a table and talk, I guess, because we've got the talent.
Yeah.
We've got the community. But I just, again, like I'm following everybody that I meet here and seeing like all these disparate pieces getting kind of put together. And it's like, like even the Arts GSO, it's like, why are they not, sitting here in this room with us right now? It's like, there's all these hands out there, but we need to get all together and just kind of talk this thing out and figure out how to promote it. And I talked to this with the guys who do the podcast out of Raleigh, the Pencil Pushers. I said, if you got the know-how to create a platform, there was an entity in Texas called Glass Tire, and they connected everything in the state of Texas as far as an art opening went. It didn't matter if it was Joe Bob's Art Collective or whatever. But you knew every art opening that happened across the state. So you knew, oh, yeah, I'm traveling to Dallas. Click on the link. You knew every opening that was happening, every artist that was in town, every opportunity. And that connected that state really, really well. And somebody's willing to do that. The monetization of that would be fantastic. That's an area that I'm not going to go into because I already have way too many interests that I have to explore further. But for me, I just think we as Greensboro, as a state, we all need to talk more. And
sure,
I think that's what's going to really take us all to the next level.
And you see some street art focus galleries in major cities like a New York or a Miami. But it would be nice to have something like that here.
Yes.
And I've thought about that at Trax and part of it to do a gallery / co-working space there.
Well, you have a great space, and you before COVID, you were putting a lot of shows on there, and that was fantastic.
Yeah.
And I know we've all had our opportunities to be in there, and I think COVID just kind of shut us all down.
Yeah, I need to kick that back into high gear because, and we'll do some of that with Stefan Smith coming to town from South Africa to do that.
Ooh.
He's going to do the largest oil canvas in the world, painted by a single artist in a single, not session, but, in a short period of time. And that he's going to submit that to the Guinness Book of World Records.
That's cool.
So, I mean, that's going to be a massive canvas.
Yeah.
And he's got sponsors for that, for the canvas and the paint. But I'm actually going to have a good hookup then for artists we work with like y'all with those oil paints and with those canvases.
Okay.
So that's going to be a good collaboration. But to your point, that's one collaboration out there working with these other groups and trying to activate the gallery, organize art. But, we just need more of that collaboration to pull that together. Because a lot of the street artists, you're doing these great pieces on a wall, but then that's not really, other than the commission, you're not selling that. So can we do canvases or can we do prints, and how can we find a way to help you monetize that artwork or other artwork as well?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for how much street art has really been blooming over the past 6 years that I've been here. And I've really seen it really come up, and a lot of that is because of the artists you brought in, and you've hired me to do all this stuff, and I'm grateful for that. And it's just, I really want to see this continue to grow. And I mean, when we hit that top 10 list and I knew I was a part of that, that was so cool. I was like, I am one of those artists, and I did my part to make this happen, as well. And that's so cool, to be a part of that. And especially to be a female in this, in a male dominated field, so
Yeah,
really
I think
cool.
two things. I think we keep doing what we're doing, but a symposium where we bring artists in where it's not. I love the festivals and they're nice, but oftentimes they feel like they're more for the general public to come be entertained.
Right.
And so it's hard for me to kind of tackle something like that with 20 artists in town because we just don't have enough staff to do that. And we've been doing everything with our own team instead of having to rely on anyone else. But
Right.
Maybe there's an opportunity for other groups to participate and then help throw a festival. Now, it would require some other walls probably out there as well.
Mm-hmm.
And that's always challenging because, a lot of property owners are very resistant to artwork that they don't significantly control on that wall.
That's true. Yeah.
And so you don't have that same artistic freedom. When you have that same artistic freedom, it's a lot more complicated.
Right.
And then getting the wall buffed, or how long is that piece going to be up? And it's a lot.
And see, and we, in the small town in Texas where we did the Texas Art and Music Festival, we kind of had that same kind of kickback. And of course, we're dealing with, 1800s buildings. So everybody's like, you're destroying the history. And it's like, well, honestly, the paint actually is preserving this building better than anything else.
Yeah.
And the longevity of it is, I'm not looking at something that's going to last 100 years on that wall. The idea is to kind of keep rotating through every, in that particular instance, every 5 to 10 years, we rotate through. And so we would have building owners that would be very upset. Like, well, this is really not a piece that I would like. And we would just, say, it's a fan favorite. Can we please keep it up for another year? And then, okay, one more year, because they knew that it was going to get painted over eventually. But it's that whole thing of, putting art in the public sphere as opposed to in a museum. That's the wonderful, twist about street art. And I think that's the hard thing for a building owner that's not in this, doesn't have the love for street art that you do, to them to wrap their minds around. Like, okay, well, it's just paint. I give somebody my wall for 3 years, and if I don't like it, I can paint over it again, or 2 years, or even 1 year, or like in the pit, 3 months, I can paint over it again.
Or 3 days.
3 days.
That's probably one of the biggest struggles right now is in this environment where people are very easily offended, or they feel like they should have more control. So the cancel culture world meets the Karens world. Karen's and Ken's world out there. Then you get people that feel like they should control what's on the wall. We had that up in Eden. People that didn't own the wall, had no input, weren't sponsoring or anything, feeling like they should have a say.
Right.
And you get people that say, oh, well, gosh, you've done something that's offended me. You need to paint over it or take it down. I think if there's one problem in the world I'm probably most concerned about, other than nuclear war with Russia right now, is this limiting freedom of expression, freedom of artistic expression, and freedom of speech, where people are wanting to control others' art or speech and limit that. And I see that as a really scary prospect out there. And I don't know, what are y'all's takes on?
Yeah, that's I think that artwork should be offensive. You know what? I think that your artwork should offend at least somebody, in order for it to have an impact. I mean, like, my professor in college, he would always talk shit, and he'd be like, yeah, all these conservative places and all want these fucking flower paintings. Like, why do they want, just all flowers and butterflies and fields and whatever, and landscapes? It's like do some nudity, do something crazy, do something kind of politically offensive. It's not artwork unless it speaks for something or someone. And I feel like that's super important. And if our artwork is controlled one day for whatever reason, and we're told we can only paint this, this, and this, that will destroy our creative input, and we're going to lose everything. I
will agree and disagree. Because again, coming from this kind of career where I've been putting a lot of paintings in galleries, I got pieces in museums, blah, 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 is that I see street art as kind of the appetizer to bring somebody into a gallery or into a museum setting, because we're beyond that now. Like everybody sits around scrolling on their phone all day. It's like, I've got instant gratification. Why do I want to go to a museum? And I don't understand it. It's all too obtuse for me. Whereas when we go out into the public and put something onto a wall, then we have now entered into their space, whether they want it or not. And so the idea is to create something artistically with merit that is also challenging, but also just reserved enough that they're like, well, I maybe want to know a little bit more. Maybe I will go explore their website or their Instagram. Maybe I will go to a museum. So the way I've embraced it, especially with COVID, is like, this is my opportunity to talk to people. Because normally it's me, I paint in my studio and then it goes up on a wall somewhere and I get to talk to them at the opening and that's it. So now it's like, I am in the public face and they're either going to like it or they're not going to like it. But because I'm out there on the wall physically, they can ask me questions and get some converts, hopefully.
Sometimes that can be fun, people talking to you on the street. Other times, not so much.
Well, nobody's thrown beer cans at me yet.
No, nobody's thrown anything at me yet. They've said some words though, because I did the whole like George Floyd painting during the protesting, and most people were so supportive. Like people were coming up to me and hugging me, and this is during COVID, so I was very uncomfortable. But there were people like crying about it. They were so excited and very happy, and like it was insane. Like 5,000 people were protesting one day and they all stopped in front of the mural, and like there were people like crying and like they bowed down to it essentially. And I'm just staying there like, like, what do I do? Then I'm practically crying too. It was just like a very emotional thing. But there were a couple people that walked by that were like not for what was going on, and they were, I'm not going to say what they said, but they were talking some mad shit, walking by.
I believe it.
So well, you face some criticism, because it was you painting it.
Oh yeah, I've gotten that too. Because I'm just some basic white girl, painting George Floyd. But that was my way of protesting. That was my way of standing up and trying to help the cause, be there for the cause and everything. And I don't know, I was just trying to do something good, and then sometimes people try to spin something good into something bad just because they're haters. And you and I both know who we're talking about, but we're not going to name any names. But so much has happened with that piece since then. It's a long story. I'm not even going to get into it, but
I think a lot of times people have an agenda on that, and the hate is is something they're doing for other reasons or other motives out there.
Yes.
And like they want to get somebody canceled because it's kind of like on Yelp. If you have two restaurants and, one kind of bashes the other, then that person's score goes down and therefore they're more likely to be number one. And I've just never understood that. And I think the people that I tend to surround myself with are people that want to lift their friends up,
right?
And want, cheer on somebody's success out there,
even if they're more successful.
Rather than wanting to drag them down.
Right.
And again, I think we're in this weird space and time right now where there's a lot of wanting to kick the dog, a lot of wanting to drag somebody down to a level, drag somebody down to lift themselves up. That isn't really helpful.
Yeah, dragging somebody down isn't going to make you any more talented.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's just throw that out there.
Yeah, if anything, you find somebody that's better, you want to learn from them.
Absolutely.
And befriend them so that you can benefit from their knowledge. And they'll help you if you're a nice person. But if you're not, they're not going to help you probably.
Yeah, that's why I always answer people when they ask me questions about art and stuff. How do you get so many commissions? What should I do? Do you have any advice for me? Like, I've had really big YouTubers contact me fairly recently, and asking me like, how do you get commissions? And I'm like, really, you're asking me this? Like, I look up to you. Like, why are you asking me questions? But we all in the art community, for the most part, from what I've experienced, most people in the art community are very receptive to, like, questions, or, they'll always be there for advice, because we've all been in the same spot where we're like, I don't know what to do. It's like, everybody has to start somewhere.
Right.
So, Doug, you've done a lot of edgy artwork out there. And I'd say the Zapata, you start listing off the things you're not really supposed to talk about. Politics, religion, sex, and Zapata starts delving in. Yeah, I mean, you're hitting on all of them when you're out there.
So Zapata started out back when I was still living in Austin. Yeah, I was still living in Austin. And I was watching what was going on the West Coast. And I was seeing a lot of this kind of like tiptoeing into erotica and big-eyed stuff like Mark Ryden. And so I had all these wet paintings. I'm like, well, I can't work on these. So I just started doing my own big-eye, sappy-eyed girls, but provocatively. And really tried to get into that market. And I kept trying, and nobody was paying attention. They'd be like, oh, come back to us next year, stuff like that. But they were selling, faster than anything else I was doing. I'm like, well, this is weird. It's like, this is not my main focus of work, yet it's selling. And then I had a big show in Houston, and with it, when I was in grad school, and I think that was the first time my faculty actually understood what I was doing. They're like, oh, we get this. Why aren't you doing more of this? And I'm like, well, because it's not my message. It's not what I'm trying to do. But it's still, there was a part of it that was. And so I put on a hiatus for a while, and then I started doing these photorealistic oil paintings of selfies because right as social media came out, I started seeing certain trends that were happening. And I mean, I already knew the psychology, that men were visual animals and women were situational. And I started seeing these people would post pictures, and they were awful photographs. And when I say people, I mean women were posting these awful photographs, seeking the male gaze out. And like the flash would blow out the whole picture, or there'd be toothpaste flecks all over the mirror. And I'm like, these are fascinating. And I love painting people. I mean, painting people is fun.
Did you have one where the woman's taking a selfie and she's like posing with a gun, but like her baby's on the bed in the background or something? Yeah.
with a bottle in his mouth. It's like, just,
I bet somebody's done that.
It's like people.
No, he was basing these on real photos.
I was going out and trolling and taking these. Yeah.
That's awesome.
So I'd find these really just bizarre images of people
toilet photos. I've seen a lot of those.
Yeah, I've got some of those. And, I was just fascinated by the ephemera around the figure. So it's like, I got to paint the figure. That was great. But then it was the stuff around it, like, why do you have a roll of duct tape in your bathroom, or, stuff like that?
Clearly, they're not artists, and they're not very observant.
No, but see, again, that's where you get into the split of male versus female, because painting male selfies is so boring because they're oiled up, they're posing in the mirror, their mirror's clean because they're looking at it as what they would want to see a woman do.
Okay.
But women would not do it in the same capacity usually. Now, Instagram has changed that dramatically. Everybody cleans their mirrors now because of Instagram. But before that, that's what it was. And I was just like, this is great. And so I farmed that for quite a while. And then the political stuff, I mean, I had a file for the GOP headquarters in Washington County in Texas. They knew who I was by name, had my address and my phone number. Wow. And it's all because I was just taking political signs and just, using my vinyl cutter and changing things. And I knew that because someone who ran a museum there, a heritage museum, went to go get some signs for me because it's like, I need some signs to put in the museum for posterity, 20 years down the line. And I said, well, you're going to have to go get them because they know me and they won't let me in. And then he goes into the place and he actually says, he texts me, he's like, dude, they know you by name and number and address. And I'm like, oh, I know. And they also know me in Fayette County and in Lee County. It's like, and all I was doing was just getting political signs, but I was upsetting them so much. And then I think that really came to a head at one point where the largest 4th of July parade west of the Mississippi is in this place called Round Top. If you watch Fixer Upper, that's where JoJo always goes and gets her stuff. And so the parade's going, and the Trump Pence float comes, and this guy on the back of the float turns, looks me in the eye, steps off the float, pushes my kid out of the way, hands me a flag and shakes my hand and says, "We at the GOP know who you are." And my kid looks up at me and says, "What? We at the what?" And I said, it took me a while to process that, wow, I didn't realize my political art was going out that far and fast, that here we are at this, 4th of July parade, and they know me by name and by sight. That's
Still attention.
It is. It's also a bit scary.
And you were nice enough to work with me on some of the fun billboards and signs.
Yes, and I feel my job is secure. I can talk about those now. So Marty had, for those people who demonize Marty, I mean, Marty's a really good guy, and he really looks out for not only his artists, but his employees.
Agreed.
And when COVID kicked in, and he introduced me to like some far left people that were having a problem with COVID protocol, and what was open and what wasn't open. And he said, "Yeah, this is really disturbing me. Can you help me? Can we work together and use my electronic billboard and make some signs to go up to basically protest the fact that, one company or one entity can be open, but another can't." I think the big one was like breweries could be open, but bars couldn't. And
Right. Yeah.
the distinction really came down to who had the best lobbyist.
Yeah, and you had bowling alleys.
Alleys, casinos that never closed.
Centers, that were open.
Right.
And different things that were open. And
Didn't make any
casinos that weren't
sense.
closed at all. And the science didn't make any sense. There was
Right.
No
no
sense.
It was very random. I agree with you on that. And so, Marty and I are, we wake up at like 4 a.m, So there I am at 4 a.m. drinking coffee, and I get a text from Marty. So I respond right back. It's like, so we bat things back and forth. And if he had an idea that I thought was too controversial, or he had an idea, or I had an idea that he thought was too controversial, it's like, let's let this one sit for a couple hours. And then usually one of us would text each other back later in the day and be like, okay, let's revamp this. And so there were some fun things we did on those billboards.
That was fun. And, and pulling in the kind of Russian propaganda style into that was really neat too.
The Gremlins one was probably still the best.
Yeah, Gremlins
yes.
was good.
The
I love
Gremlins
that
one,
one.
or the
curfews.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it's funny running that. You really do see that people see what they want to see in artwork.
Oh, I know.
Absolutely.
And so some people saw one concept, some people saw another concept, and it was all across the board.
Yeah.
You had people trolling from both sides of the political aisle.
Some of my haters were trolling and being like, "Why is he like putting all this stuff up anti-mask?" And I was like, "It's not about anti-mask. Marty wears a mask all the time. Like, he never takes it off."
Yeah.
Like,
I wore my mask everywhere. All my team members did.
Yeah, I was forced to wear one.
Yeah, we're putting in UVC filtration. I mean, doing everything.
It was nuts.
But we were doing everything right, and still we're being punished. And it's like, okay,
Right.
you need to treat people based on how they're responding to this, not just treat, it's just a lazy approach to say, okay, we're going to shut down all movie theaters. Not, okay, you can reopen if you do bing, 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 bing.
See, yeah, and you would have done all of those things. You actually didn't you go out of your way to like rebuild Red Cinema to like have less seating in there so that it would be more airy and comfortable for people? And then the city is like, well, no, we're letting you open to a certain level of capacity per what you already have there, and you're like, well, I already changed it.
Yeah, we reduced seating counts already.
Yeah,
we had the UVC filtration, all these different things. And it was just a lazy approach to governing that really resulted in a lot of that. And that's why we did the whole, your governor's in control, listen and comply.
That's what it was about, not anti-mask.
Yeah.
Come on, people. I mean, really.
Yeah. I mean, we never ran one billboard that said anything about masks.
I know, but for whatever reason, some people, I'll tell you who it is later, but thought that's what it meant. And I was like, no.
No, the haters out there label me as anti-masker, which I'm not.
No.
And then they label me as pro-Trump, which I'm not.
No.
And I've gotten bashed by the GOP for being anti-Trump. And yet there's other people on the other side, liberals out there saying he's pro-Trump. It's just,
I know.
It's kind of, I think that's one of the things is when you're an independent thinker, you get hate from both sides.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Because you don't fall in one camp or another. And I think that tribal sense is what concerns me a lot these days, is that
Agreed.
people get in a
Me
bubble and they can't have a conversation like we're having. You know, they can't
Open-mindedly.
talk with anyone they disagree with. They have to just say, you either agree with me 100% of the time or you're out of the, we're pushing you out of the tribe.
Right.
You're part of my team, or you're not.
Right. Yeah.
And that's going to lead to, you know, a lot less intellectual thought, where people, you have to be willing to expose yourself to other concepts, other ideas, other thought patterns. Otherwise, you know, I just think you're stagnant and you become kind of dumbed down by limiting the information that you're exposed to.
Right. But I think that's kind of, you know, we have this conversation when we're sitting around drinking coffee in the morning, and my wife and we talk about how, you know, people just don't want to get out of their bubbles. I mean, so much just scary shit's going on in the world right now that if you allow yourself to feel everything, then you become overwhelmed and you get in a fetal position, and that's the end of your day. And so there's only so much you can handle. And what's that guy from The Office, John Kras, I can't pronounce his name.
Oh,
Jim.
gosh. Yeah, Jim.
Jim from The Office, where he put out that, what was it, the Nice Network or something, where it was all just, I'm just going to give you happy news for the day, or somebody else was trying to put that out. And it's like, I appreciate that, you know, but there is just so much stuff that, you know, you need to be aware of. And it can be overwhelming. And so if I'm going to come out and try to shake or break your bubble, and you're like, I can't deal with that right now, I've got too much going on in my life, I can understand where that would be a very hard place to be. But, you know, obviously things are going on that are way beyond all of our controls, whether you're left, right, middle, or whatever. And so we have to get to that point of polite dialogue again, so that we can have these conversations to figure out, well, how do we fix this?
Absolutely. You know, one of the things I've been trying to get people to think about is, you know, feeling brave enough to break outside those bubbles. Because I think some of the reason people don't is if they're in this bubble, let's say on Facebook, and there's a thread out there and somebody's bashing on one topic, and someone stops and says, hey, well, you know, maybe we should think about this, then they become the target of the mob. It's like the angry mob out there is against something, but then if you veer from that at all, you become a target of the angry mob.
Oh, and Reddit's the worst.
Oh, yeah. And Twitter. I'm about to give up on Twitter. Twitter is just full of mean people, I think.
Yeah, a lot
I
of
think
mean
it's all
people,
mean
yeah.
tweets. I mean, there's the happy tweets are about gone on there.
I follow a lot of comedians on
I
Twitter.
do too, actually.
It just makes me happy. Like, cause I'll just get like little things from like, Jason Alexander. Like, he always has something funny to say, you know? But then I also follow like Leonardo DiCaprio, who's always talking about how the world is going to end, you know, because of global warming and things, you know, cause he's a huge, you know, environmental activist. But yeah, it's about who you follow. So maybe just unfollow some people, you know?
So what would be some advice you'd have for people? Y'all are both comfortable being independent and not conforming with what other people expect you to do, and not just being in one little limited sphere where you're not open to other ideas. What advice would you have for someone that wants to become a maverick, that wants to be more independent and develop that approach?
Know your shit. I mean, quite honestly, like if you got something to say, you need to research the hell out of it before you open your mouth. Because you're, like we just said, you know, everybody's going to attack you from every corner. I mean, that's what undergrad and graduate school taught me, was, you know, how people dogging on me 24/7 until I could defend myself, which I thought I was pretty good at before that. But it's whatever your craft is, you learn it and you live it, you master it. And then you have your good argument, you know, and you know when to back down, you know when to say, I disagree, you know when to say, I'm sorry, or I'm out of my element. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. humility is a great thing. But I think deep down, the whole thing is if you don't know what you're doing and you're going to engage in something that's controversial or on the edge or maverick behavior, then you're going to get a lot of pushback that may be uncomfortable. So really, for me, it's know your shit.
Yeah.
I agree with that. I think, you've got people that, and maybe that's why sometimes people feel more comfortable trolling or commenting online because they can just Google something they don't know. Mm-hmm. But you put them, you put them in a room and they don't have that resource at hand.
Right.
And they're just live chatting with people. And it's interesting to see some people that are the keyboard cowboys out there, like we like to call them. Eric Mangan did a piece, painted a piece. It's in the loft that has a keyboard cowboy element to it. But I think sometimes people feel emboldened when they're sitting there at their keyboard and they've got Google readily available, and then they post out there because they don't necessarily even know it. They know enough to refute maybe. They'll Google and see what someone said to refute. I don't even know if that's an accurate assessment or not. They'll just do it. So I agree with you. I think knowing your information and researching and learning and seeking to learn and being open to learning new things, even if they're from someone that you disagree with. And then you got to kind of vet and make sure that person really isn't just BSing you, that they know what they're talking about too. But gaining more knowledge is critical to being able to have more independent thoughts.
Definitely be a lifetime learner.
Jenna, what about you?
Yeah. Well, I was thinking less along the lines of like the political standpoint, thing. Because when it comes to politics, I just keep my mouth shut. I listen. I don't really put much input of my own out there. I just don't, because I it's not that I don't care about it, but it's not like one of those top things for me.
Paper bags or plastic bags, Jenna?
Paper.
Okay, then.
I do say paper, but I will use plastic if that's all that's available.
There you go.
And I don't complain about it.
I think sometimes on politics too, people are arguing over something where they're never going to change the other person's mind.
Right.
And so then you have to wonder, well, why have the argument? I mean, if you're not going to change the other person's mind, you're not going to change your mind. You're both not open to changing your minds.
Okay, so the three of us are sitting in this room, we're having a conversation, and that's much different than being on social media. Because on social media, most of the people are non-participating people.
They just watch.
Right. Yeah. And so a friend of mine who's part of a large group back in Texas on Facebook as one of their moderators, he came to me one time and said, why are we doing this? And I said, well, the people we're debating, we're never going to change their mind, but there are plenty of people out there who want more information that just don't know how to ask for it or feel comfortable engaging. I mean, we can take this right back to street art. If we start putting stuff out there that's more engaging and not just flowers and butterflies and stuff like that, then those people who are just on the sidelines watching and paying attention, then they get that opportunity to get that input and go home and hopefully mull it over and come up with an opinion.
Yeah, starts a conversation, that sort of thing. For me, I like listening. I like listening to different people's opinions and just kind of like taking it all in. At this point in my life, I've realized that people are who they are, and you can't change who they are. So why fight somebody to believe something that you believe?
True.
If they're not from your same background, they could have a completely different background from you. They could have a similar background from you and still have a different belief, but I accept people for who they are, even if they're complete shitheads and I don't like them. I accept them for who they are and I move on with my life because I'm like, there's nothing I can do to change the shithead that you are. I don't know.
I think I just read something the other day, and of course I'm horribly paraphrasing this. It goes back to basically Saint Jerome, where he basically said, when you and I'm again horribly paraphrasing here, like you come across somebody that just the mere sight of them makes you vomit. Like everything about them upsets you and everything about your being. That's the person you should make as your friend.
Okay.
That's the right thing to do.
Yeah. All right. I see that. Doug, I'm curious to know like your ultimate artistic goals.
I don't know. I'm pretty fluid right now. COVID, if nothing, has proved that the plans that I had before need to be altered and altered almost daily. So I think my whole being is about communication. And so, I definitely would like to get more artwork spread out through the state and outside of the state, just to get that communication component going a little bit more strongly now that I'm East Coast instead of, Texas. I know that, again, I've got good genes, but, maybe 10, 20 more years of, public, street art still in me, hopefully more.
Absolutely.
But it would be nice to have that little bit more stability as far as, the easel paintings go, or just, making any kind of art that, communicates. So I guess my goal is, now that the world's starting to open up, is just spreading out throughout the state and even out of the state, whether it's, again, street art, or whether it's gallery, or whether it's just shaking hands with people. I miss shaking hands.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's weird. Like, I meet clients now, and, it's like, I'm not really sure if they want to shake, but a lot of them will shake my hand now. But for a while there, like, for a year or two, it was like, do I try to shake their hand? Do I wave at them awkwardly? Do I, fist bump,
Well, so what about you? I mean, now you're, seems most of your career is street art, but are you going back to the easel anytime soon? Or?
Well, 32 years old right now, still kind of figuring stuff out, I guess, but I just see this huge opportunity. And another reason why I wanted to get into street art is I just saw this huge opportunity in traveling with it. I really want to expand my business and travel the world and paint beautiful pieces all over the world. Like, that's really my goal.
That is really one of the more appealing parts about street art, is being able to just travel.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, you get there and it's like, you don't really get to experience it too much unless you've got, unless you've scheduled it that way.
There are people from other countries that follow me, and I would love to eventually go paint in Thailand, or, go out to Greece, or some, all these different cool places that I've always wanted to travel. There's just so much opportunity there. You could, a friend of mine one time gave me this idea, and he's like, well, here's an entrepreneur kind of idea for you. He's like, say you want to go paint in Bali. He's like, call up their airport, tell them that you are willing to paint them a mural for free at their airport if they just give you the airfare. Like that. I mean, that's a sick deal. They would think it's a sick deal for them.
Right.
So it's like making little trade-offs, and just to get there. Then when you're there, you show people who you are, they see your work. You can go to different places and just put your name out there. Thankfully I'm a social person, so I'll go up and talk to anybody and be like, hey, I'm Jenna Rice, I want to do this, and so there's that. And also I want to teach people, and I know, you're teacher, professor, it's like, and I know you enjoy that too. I just love seeing progression in others, from learning through me too. Like, it just makes my soul happy, and
have you tried any of the festivals around?
I haven't.
And applying for them? That might be a great chance for you to travel and paint.
Oh, yeah.
And let some people see your work.
Yeah, certain musicians, actually, certain bands and things, they follow me on Instagram. This one group called Hippie Sabotage, I love them. They're really big, and they travel all over the world. And I was using their music in a lot of my Instagram reels, including the one here, I believe. And so they actually started following me, and I was like, oh, this is really cool. I was like, maybe this is an opportunity for me to reach out to them and maybe paint something during one of their shows, so that's a really good idea, reaching out to some festivals. Because as I said before, I've only been to one music festival. We were talking about that earlier.
We're just some around the country too, because I think what's neat when you meet, so you can do that to travel somewhere else, but then meeting artists from different cities, including a lot of the ones that have come here, then you have a connection. When you go to that town,
right? You've
got somebody that is an artist there that can help you connect with, the local resources, tell you where the craft shops to go to are, tell you what the rules are and who might be looking for someone to paint.
That's another thing I love about the street art scene is the networking aspect. You get to meet so many cool artists that do so many different kinds of art, and we all kind of come together and we all get along. We all understand each other, even though we do different kinds of art. And, you know, we may believe different things, but we just understand each other because we're artists, and that's it. And, you know, we appreciate each other because we're artists. And I think that's beautiful. You know, it's like math. It's like the universal language.
Now, where in the world, so if someone wanted to see more of your artwork outside of Greensboro or Eden, where would they see some existing pieces?
Well, I have a couple pieces in Indiana. Believe it or not, Marion, Indiana. It's a tiny little town, tiny little spot. It was so random that, you know, I guess the guy that hired me, he had some connections with some people here, and I guess his mother lives in Greensboro or something like that. And so he was traveling back and forth and asked somebody here who knew me, you know, what street artists they knew who might be interested. And so yeah, I went out there twice over the past couple of years, painted a couple murals. The last one was of Mae Jemison. She was the first African-American female astronaut to go into space. Yes, that was really cool. So that was a neat one. It was like, it was about 55 feet tall, about 19 feet wide. It was a big one. Yeah, it was fun though. And it just the experience of traveling and, you know, stopping in Ohio and Kansas and just stopping all these different places. And it was really cool, you know.
That was cool.
Doug, how about for your work?
Well, I mean, obviously the murals that we've talked about here, but if you want to go and ask, I have pieces at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. I don't know if it'll ever be on a wall, but it's part of the collection. Okay. And I know I think it's part of I don't know if it's part of the photography or the drawing collection, but I know they have an open drawing collection. You can ask and they'll pull out whatever they have and show it to you. I had big collectors in Thailand years ago. I don't know how, I think they've got like 8 pieces. And then of course, all throughout Texas. And then my brother's partner is the director, or one of the directors, I guess. I don't know if he's the director of the Cheech Marin Center out in California. And I know they've got a lot of, you know, not the Cheech Marin, but, you know, Todd Wingate has a lot of my artwork, as does my brother. So it's all over the place. Like you know, somebody in Chicago wanted a piece, you know, just the other day. It's like, well, okay, let's work this out. So it's a lot of private collections, but the MFA would be the only public one. And then, of course, my gallery, unfortunately, is closing down in Greenville. But another gallery is talking about picking me up in Houston. So
cool.
Nice.
Once that happens, I'll let you know.
Yeah.
Have either of y'all painted in Wynwood?
No.
I visited Wynwood and I traveled around a little bit. I didn't take the full experience in last time I was down there. I was distracted doing other things, and then, you know, just being in Miami. And I also painted a mural at a middle school in Miami. That. Yeah. So I have a painting that I did there. And of course, knowing me, and Marty, you know this, I choose the most difficult thing that I could possibly do in a very short amount of time, and just testing myself to see if I can do it. And of course, I take forever to do it. But I did finish it. I feel like I abandoned it almost, but I feel like I abandoned everything. Nothing's ever complete. It's always abandoned in my mind. It's never perfect enough, you know? But yeah, I spent more time painting than I did really exploring Wynwood. But I think my goal is, if not this year, which hopefully this year, I'm trying to get a wall in Wynwood. I'm trying. I would love that. I would love that. So if you know anybody, Marty, let me know.
You know, it's interesting. It really felt like it was pretty spread out this year. You know, they went into downtown a lot more, a lot in Wynwood, and then they've been doing a lot of the schools all around as well. But they had a whole section over on the west side of Wynwood, on kind of northwest part of Wynwood, that was a huge group of female artists, probably 20 or so female artists painting out there together, which was kind of a neat deal. And then downtown, they had a whole variety. Brian had a big wall down there. And so I was just kind of exploring around. It was nice not to have to worry about it being my wall or my lift or
right.
or
Oh yeah,
organizing
I bet
something.
that must have been a breeze for you.
Yes.
You're usually the one having to control all the things, and here I am calling you 3 times a day. I broke the lift again.
Yeah, it was fun. So I brought my drone around, and that was neat to fly that around some and capture some photos for people.
Yeah, I didn't even see you down there. I was very disappointed about that.
Yeah,
we were both in Miami at the same time, and I was so busy, and you were so busy that we just didn't.
There's so much going on down there.
It was just insane. Yeah.
One of the big projects we've got going right now, has Victoria Benzine reached out to either one of y'all to talk?
Not recently.
Not
no.
recently.
She's working on trying to do kind of look at all the different ways that art intersects. So talking with artists, talking with curators, talking with photographers, talking with website aggregators out there, paint supply companies, and kind of loop all that together so that you understand how it all kind of works together. So when you paint the piece, you had a curator probably out there or sponsor. You've got a certain paint company involved. When it's done, some photographer is going to come by typically and take a shot that you really like, or it's going to go on an aggregator site out there and be posted. And so all that kind of works together now to get the artwork exposed to as many people as possible. So we're talking with various people in different buckets and understanding their relationship with the art and their relationship with each other. And so I've had her working for several months now on different projects, different pieces and research, and she's working on that. So
Cool.
She may be reaching out to you about that too.
Oh, that's great. I love her. She's sweet. I really like her a lot. Yeah.
Yeah, she's done a great job on.
She does great
covering
work
that.
too.
And getting the stories out there, because that's the other part of it is you paint the piece. Okay, so now what happens? Did we get enough photos or video along the way? Is there an article about it or a story? And how do we push that information out so that you get the attention? And Paul has been great with that too, with Glass Bear to film a lot of the videos for us.
Well, let's put the question back on you. So how are your documentaries coming? Because I know you had a couple of documentaries ready to go right as COVID hit.
Yeah. Yeah. So we've got the main piece we did, and then we've got some updates to that to include. And I did the TED Talk, and we've just finished the final edit of that. So that should get posted soon.
Yay, I want to see it.
Yeah, it's going to be neat. Well,
I was going to ask you about that actually after this. I was going to be like, so the TED Talk.
I've got the draft one, the latest draft that's probably going to be the final.
Oh, cool.
But it, my goal with that was just to give y'all a tool so that when you're talking to a city or another developer, how do you convince them? Because that's the hardest part. How do you convince them to kind of buy into street art? But then once they're bought in, how do you convince them not to make it an ad or so controlled that you can't paint what you want there?
Right.
And give you more artistic freedom to work. So hopefully that will be a tool that you'll be able to use.
Yeah, that'd be great. Yeah, thank you for doing that. That's great.
Well, thank y'all for participating in my second podcast. This is only the second time I'm doing this. And
well, thank you for having us. This has been fun.
It's been a great time.
Always fun sitting around chatting with you guys.
And I hate to take these headphones off because the world sounds so great in these headphones.
I sound so much better.
all right. Thank y'all.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's always fun for me to have a conversation with street artists because I truly do believe they are all mavericks. They are taking on this outdoor art that puts them in the public eye and requires them to deal with public criticism. And oftentimes they enjoy the challenge of challenging the public and pushing back and getting people to think. And again, that's kind of like this podcast, the idea of getting people to think outside the box, to form their own thoughts and opinions, and to have interesting and difficult conversations, voicing their opinions. I'm excited to see what Jenna and Doug come up with next in their artwork. Their art is ever evolving, and it is always something that makes you think. If you get a chance to visit Greensboro, make sure to go to our website And the website is simply kotisstreetart.com. There's a downloadable map there, and there's more information about each one of the artists. And I'd encourage you to just go around and check out the artwork. See for yourself what all this graffiti street art is about, and see how impactful it is. I'm going to continue to try and support street artists and help them achieve their goals because it's something that's important to me. And I feel like it has this impact on a variety of other people. People see the art in person, they take a photo, they post on Instagram, and it has a chance to brighten other people's day all across the world. And what they do with the spray can is really phenomenal. So again, go check it out for yourself and let me know what you think. In future episodes, I've got a lot of other street artists that will be on the show. So if you like this episode or you're interested in street art, please follow, and you'll have a chance to hear more from other artists. I've already recorded several that are in the bag already, and hope that you're enjoying the podcast. Would appreciate your feedback and any thoughts you have for how we can improve it. Thanks and have a great day.